Hey everyone, welcome to Nathan's Media. In today's video, we'll be talking about VPCs in Huawei Cloud. In Huawei Cloud, in order to deploy any service, you need a VPC. This is similar to your local area network in your home or office. VPCs are like a virtual container which is isolated, and it is important to know that creating VPCs won't cost you anything. In this video, first I'll be showing you how to create VPCs and deploy services inside them, such as an ECS. Next, we'll move on to learning how networking works inside a VPC. As mentioned earlier, by default they are isolated from other VPCs and can be operated independently. But at the end, I will show you how to connect two VPCs together if it is required. Without further ado, let's get started. Once you log into Huawei Cloud, you're gonna go ahead and head to your console. Okay, so once I'm in the console, under My Resources, you would likely see your VPCs over here. If not, you can go ahead to the service list and search for VPC. I'm gonna click on VPC. As you can see, I already have a VPC created, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete that one real quick. So now my VPC list is empty. I'm gonna go ahead and create a VPC. If you're deploying a service before you create any VPC, a default VPC would be created for you, so you don't have to explicitly create a VPC before you deploy a service. So I'm going to set the region as AP Singapore for the purpose of this video, and I'm going to set the name as VPC01. If you have any idea about CIDR blocks, you can mess around with it and set it as you require, the subnet masks and your network address. I'm going to select 24. As you can see, we can add up to 3 subnets inside a VPC. So I'm going to add another subnet, so it makes a total of 2. The first subnet I'm going to name as subnet. I'll add the VPC name before the subnet name as well in order to identify it easily. And the second subnet I'm going to name as VPC1 subnet 2. All of these will be the same availability zone, and as you can see, I have set the network subnet mask as 26 in this. So if you have the idea about subnets, you can fiddle around with it, or you can leave it as it is. But if you are following along with this video, you can set it as I have set it already. So my first network address will be 0, and next it will be 64. Once you click on it, you can find the list of numbers you can type for the network address. So that's almost it, and I can hit on create. And now that is created, let's go inside the VPC. So you can basically see the resources inside the VPC as ECS, BMS, load balancers, and network interfaces. Currently we have none. And if you go on to this topology tab, you can see the networking topology of this VPC. So currently we have 2 subnets. Once you click on the green color icon, we can see the DHCP status, the availability zone, the status of the subnet, and the gateway. Second subnet, also the same things. So it gives us an idea about how things are connected inside a VPC, which is pretty cool. So as you can see the plus mark over here, we can add servers inside these subnets. So I'm gonna go ahead and click add server. I'm just gonna put a small server inside this subnet. So I'm gonna put pay per use, availability zone 1 vCPU and 1 GB memory would be enough. And next CentOS, I'll choose an older version. And here, this is the important part, the network part. So once we are creating an ECS, we can select the VPC. Currently we have only one VPC, so it's automatically selected. And then the primary NIC. So the subnet is going to be subnet 1. As you can see, there's subnet 2 as well. We are going to deploy a different VM on the subnet 2. So currently we have selected subnet 1, and you can automatically assign IP or manually specify an IP. I'm just going ahead and manually specify an IP. So as you can see, 1 is already taken. This is because 1 is used by the default gateway or the router. So I'm gonna select 2. So this machine's IP would be 192.168.1.2. And then security group, I'm gonna go ahead and remove the current security group and create a new security group. So security groups basically specify which ports are allowed on inbound and outbound. So I'm gonna go ahead and name this security group as SG01. We can use the same security group for all the servers. So it's more like a template. I'm gonna select general purpose web server and select OK. And then I would not need a public network access. So I'm gonna go ahead and select not required to the EIP. EIPs are required if you're connecting to your server over the internet. So instance management, I'm going to set the ECS name as ECS1. Set the password and double check everything whether it's correct. I can turn on and off host protection. It wouldn't be necessary. But as you can see, there's a free trial, so I'll keep it on. And yes, that would be all. So I'm going to go ahead and click on submit, agree and submit. While it's been created, we'll go ahead and create another ECS inside of subnet 2. So I'm going to go ahead and head back to the ECS list. So as you can see, it's running. In the operations tab, click more, by same ECS. So it will be the same configuration as the one we created right now. Go ahead into the networking tab. Alright, so it's in VPC1 and we are going to select subnet 2 instead of subnet 1. Manually assign an IP. As you can see, it shows us the IP ranges. We can't keep 65 once again because it's used by the default gateway. We can put 66 and we'll change the name as ECS2. Set the password right now and then click on submit. We're going to go ahead back to the ECS list. As you can see, there are two ECSs currently created. So one is currently creating. While it's creating, we'll go ahead and check on our VPC. So once I click on the VPC and go ahead to topology, as you can see, there are two servers. Once we click on it, we can see the ID, the private IP address, and the security group it uses. Same with this. We can bind EIP or change the security group from this itself. So if I want to change the security group, if I have a different security group, I can select it instead of this. So currently I'm okay with the security group I have created. So I'm gonna close it up. And next, we'll try pinging from ECS1 to ECS2 to check whether it's connected. Let's go ahead and ping it. Heading back to ECS, I'll click on remote login on ECS1. Login using Cloud Shell, or you can also use VNC, but let's use Cloud Shell. Okay, you'll be taken to this tab. So username, leave it as it is. Password, we are going to enter the password we entered earlier and click on connect. Alright, so we are in. So I'm gonna go ahead and ping our second ECS. We'll quickly go ahead and check the IP ping 192.168.1.66 and it's pinging. So these two ECS can communicate with each other over this network. Now we'll go ahead and check what happens when we have an ECS on a different VPC. So I'm gonna go ahead to VPCs, head back. Let's create another VPC real quick. Now I'll hit on create now. So it's instantly created the VPC2 and there's only one subnet in that VPC. We'll only be needing one. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on more once again in the ECS and select by same ECS. And now once we head to the networking tab, in VPCs we can select which VPC our ECS is going to be on. I'm going to select VPC2 and then the primary NIC. There's only one subnet inside that VPC, so subnet 1, and manually specify an IP address. Once again we can't take one, so we'll put 2 and then password. Name this ECS as ECS3. Select the password and click on submit. And we are going to go ahead back to the ECS list. As you can see, it's still creating. So we'll go ahead into the VPC list and click on VPC2 and check the topology of it. When we are doing this, we need to make sure our networks don't overlap. So this subnet will be 192.168.2.1. As you can see in VPC1, this subnet would be going as 192.168.1.1 and 192.168.1.65. So make sure it doesn't overlap so you have a clear idea about what's going on. And so we'll go ahead and ping ECS3 from ECS1. So ECS3 is in VPC2 topology. So yeah, it's here. Go ahead and copy the IP of it. Go into Cloud Shell, ping ECS2. As you can see, it's not pinging. This is because VPCs are isolated. So what we can do to connect to VPCs is go to the VPC console, go back once again, and select VPC peering connections. What VPC peering does is it connects two VPCs together. So I'm going to go ahead and create a VPC peering connection. I'm going to name it as peering 1. Local VPC would be VPC1, from VPC1 to VPC2. And we are going to go ahead and click on create now. And VPC peering connection is created. After VPC peering connection is created, routes need to be added. So if you know about routing, when we need to connect two routers together, we need to add the routing tables. So we're going to go ahead and add the routing tables now. Associated routes, so add route, VPC1, destination is the other VPC, which is VPC2. We need to add the IP of VPC2. Now if you want to check the IP, select VPCs, go into VPC2. The IP would be 192.168.2.0. So I'm going to head and add 192.168.2.0 and add route for other VPC. So it will automatically add the VPC2 to peering into VPC1 as well. So destination would be VPC1 from VPC2. So 192.168, it's 1.0. Make sure to add the subnet mask as well. It's 24/24 and hit OK. Okay, so the next hop and everything is added, the destination and next hop. So it is similar to your local area network when you need to connect two networks together. And we're going to go ahead into ECS1 and ping the ECS3, which is inside VPC2. As you can see, now the ping succeeds. Now the first VPC and the second VPC are successfully networked into each other. So that's all for this video. I'll be creating a more simpler video for VPCs and security groups as well, explaining the purpose and functionality of them. This is more of a practical lab, so hope you learned something from this. If you have any doubts, please add a comment below. Thanks for watching Nathan's Media.